back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope your weekend has been going well. We're going to take a look at this week's astro weather, and it's going to be for the week of March 3rd through the 10th, 2024. We're going to talk all about Mercury entering into the sign of Aries. I'm titling this video, The Power of Now. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click the bell button down below so you're subscribed. Drop me a comment and let me know how you're feeling with these transits. It's always good to hear from you guys. I always appreciate your comments. Any interaction or thumbs up on the channel really helps this channel grow and gets this out to other astrology lovers on YouTube. All right, so this is going to be actually a little bit of like a slower paced week. So I'm kind of thankful for that because there isn't too much crazy stuff going on. So that's positive. But I am going to be talking to you guys a little bit more about this Mercury ingress because that's the biggest transit of the week. Obviously, we know Mercury deals with messages, communication, travel, and I'm really excited to see Mercury's ingress this week because this is the first planet to really move through Aries as we're coming into spring of 2024. Kind of carrying like the torch or maybe the megaphone and giving us some ideas about what we are going to be initiating, what new things we're doing. And it's had me kind of reminiscing and going back and listening to Ram Dass's Be Here Now. So I don't know if you guys have read that book, if you've heard his audiobook or the lectures regarding the power of now, but I really recommend listening to it because it can be really helpful for this transit. Now, for those of you guys who are not aware, Ram Dass's Be Here Now is it's a spiritual book that explores the transformation of consciousness and the journey towards enlightenment. The main point of this whole speech is bringing importance to being present in the moment and embracing the power of now. So in his lecture, Ram Dass encourages individuals to let go of their attachments to the past and to the future, instead focusing on the present moment as it's the only reality that truly exists. This shift in perspective can lead to a deeper understanding of oneself, a greater connection to the universe, an increased sense of inner peace and fulfillment. Really reminds me of like, you know, any first house placements, any really strong Aries signatures. Even if you don't have any placements like this, it can be a wonderful thing that you can be reading or listening to help you really be present in your decision making with this transit. Now, in particular, you know, Mercury is going to be in Aries for quite some time. It's going to be here from March the 10th through May 15th, 2024. So that's roughly 2 whole months with Mercury in this sign, primarily because in April, we're going to see a Mercury retrograde. So we're going to experience a longer kind of theme of Mercury in this sign. And I pulled some of my favorite quotes from this particular book that I felt really applied. And one is Ram Dass says, the spiritual journey is individual, highly personal. It can't be organized or regulated. It isn't true that everyone should follow one path. Listen to your own truth. Okay, so I think that resonates because Mercury's the mind, Aries is the I am. So you're going to notice a lot of reflecting on your goals, your decisions, your direction, what path you're going on. Mercury deals with assessment and organization, and it can also be about really setting this new kind of year, because we're coming into the astrological new year pretty soon, off right. And it's going to start with some sense of getting connected to our destiny, really being in alignment with our own thoughts, what's best for us. So I love that quote. And then obviously I think any Aries placement can benefit from this one, myself included. The quieter you become, the more that you can hear. Okay, so remember that Aries placements, because it's ruled by Mars, it has this kind of like shoot from the hip energy. So it has a tendency to act first, think later. So that can definitely be a theme that kind of comes up with this particular transit. But I love that it's encouraging us to listen. And whether that's listening to our inner voice, listening to the things that we're saying and really asking ourselves, you know, am I walking the walk, talking the talk? Or are we listening to other people, right? Hearing other people's perspective. Something I always catch myself doing is like, okay, are you listening or are you waiting to talk? So that can be, that's a little bit of wisdom from an Aries moon. That can be really helpful and better assessing how to communicate, not just with other people, but with our own inner voice this week. So like I said, 2 months of Mercury in Aries. It's important to take a look at where Aries is in your chart. So pull up your chart, whether it's on an app or if you've got it on your computer, if you have a picture of it, look at the house that Aries is, okay? So the house is gonna represent the area in which there's gonna be a lot of action here over this next month. Now, something else that I was thinking about also is that, Chiron is there. Chiron, the healer, the wounded healer, is in Aries. It's now direct as well. And so we're starting to see the separation, the slow separation of the North Node and Chiron. So we are really in tune with healing, addressing our wounds physically, emotionally, in relationship to ourselves, really recognizing where maybe we have had a tendency to hurt other people because we are actually wounded. The South Node is in Libra, so I can talk about that relationship kind of untangling, and it can be a relationship to people, friends, jobs, particular hobbies, other things, and where we kind of have this falling out with ourselves. So Chiron brings us back to, needing to tend some of those wounds so we can become 100%, so we can meet other people halfway. But really the relationship starts with ourselves first. Anyway, so Mercury kind of being in this sign with Chiron being there adds a whole other flavor. And obviously the North Node is there. So we're going to be getting familiar with some of these nodal transits over the next couple of months, where we're getting more so in alignment with taking action, initiating, and starting something new. So this is kind of like I said, Mercury's pulling ahead with his megaphone, letting everybody know, hey, this is this thing that we're going to be working out, or we're going to be reassessing, or we're going to be healing, or kind of addressing or talking about. And then early next month, we have an eclipse, then we have a retrograde. So we're going to get time to kind of integrate some of these discussions and kind of really, I think, tend to our own wounds. Now, Aries, the archetype of Aries in general, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, it's associated with qualities like independence, courage, assertiveness, and action. It's a fire sign, and fire likes to burn. So the question is that are you using this energy for mental fuel, or are you kind of feeling like your mind is on fire? It kind of has like this fast and furious type of feeling to it when you have planets go through Aries. And the symbol for Aries is the ram, which represents the strong-willed, determined nature. So in mythology, specifically in Greek mythology, the Greek god Aries is the god of war. And so obviously there is some association with Mars because that's the Roman god of war and the ruling planet of Aries. And Mars represents energy, drive, passion that fuels the Aries archetype. So we're not talking about Mars yet. Mars will eventually go into Aries later this year. But when we put Mercury under the lens of Aries, we're going to see that quick moving, passionate, determined, sometimes a little agitated, aggravated, sparring type of energy. So we can feel like there is a lot more mental, capability. We can be moving quicker, reading faster, assorting and moving through things much more quickly. And so I think that's the positive side of this. I think about the Aries like archetype throughout various forms of like history and art and pop culture. And it's always depicted as somebody who's brave and fearless, generally heroes or warrior type archetypes. So some well-known examples that I can think of would be popular characters such as Katniss Evergreen from the Hunger Games. We can all remember where she says, I volunteer as tribute, right? Very kind of like Mercury Aries type situation. But also I think of like Harry Potter from the Harry Potter series and being somebody who is like this boy, and obviously he had this scar on his forehead, that's very Aries. And somebody who has to go through all of these like tests and trials and then ultimately comes out kind of like being more of like a man. We see him grow up from being a boy and fighting all of these dragons and characters and stuff and being in these perilous situations with his friends. Anyway, when Mercury goes through Aries, it's going to bring this fiery and impulsive energy to communication and thought processes. So I think about listening to motivational speakers. I think about maybe reading some of our favorite action novels or literature, or we're hearing about people's heroic stories. This can be really helpful for us during this transit. because people are going to tend to be more direct and assertive and quick thinking. So this will lead to rapid decision making and a tendency to speak one's mind, right? Aries is the head, but sometimes that can be without much consideration for other people's feelings. So here's some themes that you just want to be, prepared for and be mindful of as we see this ingress into Aries, because when Mercury's in Pisces, we're just kind of dreamy, we're, creative, maybe we are not as kind of checked in. I've said in previous videos, I personally have had a really difficult time with this transit. I don't know why, but it's been really difficult for me to maintain focus and also like stay on task. So I'm for one really looking forward to the Mercury ingress into Aries, because I think it's going to help us kind of be able to think in a much more critical fashion, and also I think execute more of like our to-do list. When I think of Aries, I think of that theme of I am, right? First house, I am. So you'll notice a lot of this coming up in conversation, both for yourself and with other people, where there's a huge focus on what you're actively doing. Hence why I said definitely go and check out the Be Here Now book. Anyway, so obviously directness is a huge theme, right? Which can be appreciated because we can get to the point much more quickly. We can kind of cut through things without having to have long-winded conversations. Mercury in Aries will encourage us to communicate our thoughts and ideas in a much more straightforward and honest manner. But with that being said, there can sometimes be somebody being too quick to the point, and they can kind of come off like a little hasty. It can come off a little aggressive. So you want to be mindful of your communication style throughout these next 2 months. But the positive is that it's going to allow us to have quick thinking. So this can help us process information, make decisions quickly and efficiently. So rather than kind of, fueling off of that South Node in Libra, where we're indecisive, unsure, going back and forth, weighing our opinions, or even the Pisces energy, which has been like, whatever happens, happens. It doesn't really matter. When it shifts into Aries, we're going to be able to make decisions in the moment, on the spot. And it's not just about making decisions in the moment. It's also about not falling into rehashing the past, not fixating on the past, not worrying about the future, right? Something I try to remind myself, because I have an Aries moon, is you just got to keep things moving. If you are constantly reminiscing about the past or getting fixated on the past or emotionally attached to it, or you're worrying about the future or obsessing about the future, it inhibits me from making decisions right now, because really the future is determined by the actions and the decisions that we make in the moment. So what's beautiful about this transit is that we can get things done. We can be more assertive. We can express our opinions and our ideas, which can be helpful in some certain situations, right? And trust me, with this transit, everybody's going to have an opinion. I think we're going to see a lot of people realizing and recognizing that maybe we've been too like blasé about things. Maybe, lack of decisiveness or lack of action or accountability has actually kept us from kind of getting to where we need to go. So Mercury in Aries kind of brings this energy and it reflects it back to us. And it's like, okay, it's not about what other people are doing. What am I doing? And instead of checking in with others and looking for, other people's approval, we're kind of tapping into, knowing what direction we're supposed to be going in and feeling confident about that. So assertiveness also, we can look at it as, well, what's the difference between being assertive and being mean? Okay. And this can be in terms of how we communicate with other people, or it can be about negative self-talk and where we're beating ourselves up and actually having a difficult time starting something new. Whether this is a new job, a fitness routine, getting back out into, out there and like dating again, or just turning over, bad habits and turning them into new habits, everybody's got to start somewhere. And so the beauty of, I think, Mercury in Aries is like really when we get our mind in order and we recognize and realize that nobody's going to save us. We have to do it ourselves. We have to shift something about our frame of mind. That's where the magic kind of happens. Now, Mercury's in this sign is also known for being very independent. So in the sign of Aries, it can be about independence, self-reliance, which I think is positive because it can lead to personal growth and better self-esteem, better confidence. So knowing that you don't have to agree with other people, but you also, can take other people's, opinions into consideration, but ultimately you're going to make your own decision. Learning how to become more self-reliant, learning how to think critically, how to think for yourself without all of the chatter and the chit chat from other people telling you, well, you could or you should. You'll be able to kind of better block that out, leading you to, be able to take action. So I think about, like I said, action-oriented thinking, not just talking about it, being about it, because Aries is a fire sign. So it does represent needing to kind of, hit the ground running and take action and turn your thoughts into tangible results. This is awesome for enthusiasm because I do feel like Mercury in Aries brings a sense of excitement and enthusiasm to communication and thought processes. So it can make conversation and decision making more engaging. So it can also be highly inspirational for other people in, talking about how you're taking responsibility for, your actions or the decisions that you're making, or telling other people about what new habits you're forming. It can be very, very encouraging for other people, just sharing some of your ideas and how you're becoming more self-sufficient. Aries is also a sign that's associated with leadership, okay? Both because it's ruled by Mars, and Mars has this energy of being like, I'm gonna do it first. I'm gonna be the fastest, right? I'm gonna be the person who's gonna kind of spearhead the situation. But I also think about the sun's exaltation in the sign of Aries, and that, those who are really great leaders are the ones who lead by example. So the assertive and direct nature of Mercury in the sign can help individuals take on leadership roles and effectively communicate your ideas to other people. And so something about this, I've thought about this a lot the last couple of years. Part of being a good businesswoman, I think, is about learning how to delegate tasks to other people and not trying to take everything on my own. And that's been really difficult for me because I'm used to being a one-woman show, but I've realized that there are some things that I'm not really all that great at. I can always be better in some areas, but it's better for me to delegate some of these tasks to, my husband, or to just professionals and other people that I'm like, I have no business doing this. And in turn, it's helped me, I think, be a better leader. It's helped me focus more on the content that I want to make. It's helped me also, kind of go in a different direction when it comes to my career. So on leadership, I think that this can be wonderful because it can help you learn how to reach out to other people and say, especially during the retrograde, I don't know how to do this, or I've never done this before. And it can open you up and teach you to be more vulnerable, and it can bring in the people, whether it's the partners, the healthcare practitioners, the teachers, trainers, coaches, therapists, friends, right? And let them know, I need help. I've never done this. This is my first time. But I think that in that vulnerability, you're giving yourself the opportunity to be led by other people who may have amazing talent, and they may have the ability to really shine, and offer their services or their support for you. I like this transit for courage because Mercury in Aries encourages people to face their challenges and obstacles with courage and determination, helping them overcome barriers and achieve their goals. Now, something we're going to learn with this Mercury retrograde, because it'll kind of touch on the North Node and Chiron throughout its transit, is that we have to really dig deep and reassess what we are capable of. One of my favorite phrases has always been, fortune favors the bold. If you're not willing to take chances, if you're not willing to kind of put yourself out there and take a risk or be courageous, then you don't get to play the game. So this can be a time where we become aware of our tendency to underestimate ourselves, to say, well, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not fast enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable enough, and turn that around through the retrograde and recognize that if we just take that first step in learning something new, or testing our bodies, or learning how to, have better endurance, or to be more courageous, we may actually realize we're pretty tough, we're pretty strong. And it can be a really amazing time where we can really kind of build ourselves back up and see sides of ourselves mentally and physically that we've never seen before. Now, this is great for creativity because obviously Aries is a fire element, and I think it can stimulate creative thinking. It can encourage people to come up with innovative ideas and solutions. So wonderful for entrepreneurial energy because Aries has that. They have that quality. And we're going to see this being a theme over the next couple of months as we see a lot of transits touching with the North Node in Aries, that people are going to start learning how to do some things themselves, work for themselves, start a side hustle, maybe take on a new physical routine, something like that. And so there can be some creative opportunities in that. There can be some business opportunities in that. After all, Mercury does have associations with business, trade, exchange. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking for coaches, looking for teachers, looking for mentors. And so if you're somebody who has like a skill or a talent under that kind of umbrella, it may be a time where you're like, hey, I am a really great communicator. I'm a coach, or I'm into fitness, or I'm into wellness. Or other things that you can do, because Aries can also be things that are about self-defense. It can be things revolving around also like survival, type skills, or hunting type skills. So you may be able to kind of creatively turn this into like a business opportunity. But overall, I think probably one of the better qualities is going to be resilience, because Aries energy is very resilient. It's very determined. Allowing individuals to bounce back from setbacks and to continue pursuing their goals. There is a reason why they have the archetype of the warrior, right? They have all the armor and the swords and all these things, but we've all seen Gladiator and like all of these like famous kind of war hero type of movies and stories, where in spite of all of the gashes and the bruises and however many times they get knocked down, at the end of that kind of story arc, we see that the hero is kind of left standing and that they have been able to overcome all of the challenges. So I think this can be a time where we are kind of reflecting on that, and we're kind of recognizing how far we've come in a situation, and it can make us feel stronger, right? Mentally, especially stronger. But if you want to get physically stronger, if you want to be more independent, if you want to be, kind of getting out of these tendencies to be to be reliant on other people or to be indecisive, this is definitely a transit that's going to help you do that. Aries is also about taking action. So something else I would really recommend is getting into the habit of reminding yourself what you're doing, right? I am, like, whether it's creating a to-do list, I'm doing this today, and getting it all off of your list. If it's starting your day with a mantra, which I think can be really powerful, whether you're saying this in the mirror or you're reminding yourself of it, or maybe you're writing it down, taking some kind of action when it comes to words is going to be very potent for this particular transit. So I'll put this in the description below, but I created a whole list of things that I would either note, especially if one of these phrases resonates with you. Maybe you decide that you want to write it on a sticky note and you put it on your computer so you see it every day. Maybe you put it on, your mirror in the bathroom, or on your visor in your car. Maybe you put it on your wallpaper on your phone. Pick one of these if you want to stick with one of them, and use this to remind yourself, or be writing it every day throughout this transit. I think it can be helpful. So this is just what I came up with. So the first one would be, I communicate my thoughts and ideas with clarity and confidence. Now note, I'm saying I am, as in not I'm going to, not I used to, or maybe I can. I am. It has to be thinking in the now. The second would be, my quick thinking and decisive nature helps me make the best decisions for my life. Simple, right? I'm assertive in expressing my needs and desires, and I do so with respect for others. I am independent and self-reliant, but I also value collaboration and teamwork. That's important. That's also like the sextile to Pluto. I am action-oriented, and I turn my ideas into reality with determination and focus. I like that one. I approach challenges with enthusiasm and courage, and I am not afraid to take risks. My leadership skills allow me to effectively guide and inspire others. I am creative and innovative, and I use my ideas to make a positive impact on the world. I am resilient, and I bounce back from setbacks with determination and strength. And then finally, I embrace the energy of Mercury and Aries to enhance my communication, decision-making, and personal growth. So I hope one of those sticks with you. Like I said, check out the description. I'll put them all there. I'm definitely going to have stickies all over my house. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. And we'll go ahead now and take a look at the transits for the week ahead. At the end of this, I will take you guys through the 12 rising signs, and I'll show you where Mercury is going to be moving. But by now, all of you guys should know what's going on with the area of Aries in your chart because it's just so damn active over the next month. Okay. So we're starting today, Sunday the 3rd. Happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. Hope you guys are well. Obviously, we wake up this morning and the moon is in Sagittarius, and we got some wonky stuff that's happening here. So for starters, with the moon in Sagittarius, the positive is that this is a Jupiter-ruled sign, so we feel a little bit more enthusiastic, optimistic, willing to learn, travel, that kind of stuff. We are seeing some sextiles to Aquarius placements, which can be great for socializing. And we see a trine to the North Node and Chiron. So there's a lot of what am I learning? Hence why I really wanted to start with this first. The downside of, some of the challenging transits today is that we are going to be seeing that there will be some squares between the moon and Saturn and the sun and Mercury. So if you guys remember last week, I said things get a little bit easier the second half of today. Whenever we see the moon in a square with the sun, it does represent a day where we kind of feel like, okay, there's some changes going on with our schedule. Things feel a little discombobulated. Stuff doesn't always go according to plan because we do have all this energy in Pisces right now, which feels quiet, resting, retreating, private. And then we have this fiery moon making all of these aspects that's like, come on, I want to get out and go. So you may feel like you're being kind of pushed and pulled in two different directions, or you may just feel like this morning is just kind of going a little bit slower. You're just kind of, playing it by ear in terms of how your plans are going to be this Sunday. The other big transit that's happening is that we're going to see Venus coming into a square with Uranus. Okay, so that's happening first thing in the morning. We've got Venus in Aquarius, fun, freedom-loving, very social, and then the hard square to Uranus can represent changes, friction, shifts in regards to our money, finances, and values. It is at a 19 degrees, so that's a Libra degree, so there can be a little bit of friction in relationships, there can be some drama at brunch, there can be some kind of, some challenges in, affection and relations with partnerships as well. However, I will say that there is mutual reception here. So Uranus is in a Venusian sign, Venus is in a Uranian sign, and so they're both kind of saying the same thing, which is like, change, freedom, some kind of shift is necessary to get, better grounded, or maybe to, kind of get more so solid in the future. This is a closing square with Uranus as well. So this is kind of wrapping up where there's been some ebbs and flows in relationships. And sometimes with Venus square Uranus, this represents like a change in your personal style, doing something different when it comes to, date night or relationships with friends. And it has this energy of being like, freedom can still be loving. We can still love somebody and let them kind of go and do what they want to do and allow them to, come back on their own terms. So set something free today. Let something go today. Doesn't mean you're necessarily losing it. It just means that you're giving it a little bit of a break. Something else I'll say about this moon transit is probably about the time you guys are getting up, it's starting to square the sun and Mercury, which makes me feel like there's some travel issues. There can be some really extreme weather, some visibility issues. So if you're somebody who's traveling on Sunday, be mindful of that. There can be some setbacks and some delays. And if you're in parts of the world where there's some extreme weather, just be mindful that there can be some visibility issues. But aside from that, later in the day, we start kind of picking up out of the square with Mercury. Then the moon is starting to sextile Mars and Venus. And it feels like kind of like late afternoon, early evening is better for relating with people. So just keep that in mind. Now, then we're going to see on the 4th, let's bring this back a little bit here. So this is Monday. We wake up on Monday and the moon is still in Sagittarius. And actually right off the bat, the moon is coming into a square with Neptune. So this can still feel a little sensitive or reflecting. There's something still changing. Neptune kind of softens things, and it can also make us more empathic and more susceptible to kind of picking up people's vibes. So with this square to Neptune, it is possible, so there could be some like hitting the snooze button or oversleeping and missing something or forgetting something. So be mindful of that. And then somewhere around midday, we're going to start to see, actually later afternoon, we're going to see the moon's ingress into Capricorn. Okay. So besides the moon's ingress into Capricorn, there's also a very subtle but kind of productive sextile that we're going to see from Mercury to Uranus. So what about this stellium of stuff in Pisces, guys? How are you doing with it? I'm putting a video together that you guys are going to see on Tuesday that's all about this Pisces stellium and how to work with it, because it can be quite confusing, kind of discombobulating. But Mercury in Pisces, we know that we're having to lean into our feelings and our intuition, right? Something may be harder to express or communicate or learn. But Mercury is going to form a positive aspect, a sextile to Uranus, which means that if we're taking time to rest, recuperate, reflect, we may be able to do something different. We may be able to do something productive. Maybe we are kind of navigating our daily routine or our habits in a more intuitive way. We're feeling into when we're supposed to be doing things, when the time is right. So obviously, like Monday morning, right? Monday blues. I feel like this can be, working in a way where we're at ease as long as we are having adequate rest or a more kind of relaxing environment, or maybe we're taking a break, we're taking a nap. So that way we can feel sustained. And it also means that, it's not just about rest. Taurus is about food. It's about resources. It's about stability, grounding. So we're going to be able to get more done if we're kind of shifting something about our productivity this day. Simultaneously, that moon in Capricorn will start coming into a sextile with Saturn. So the energy kind of changes in the evening. Then we're kind of looking at this stellium of planets pretty close to Saturn. So we're reflecting, we're getting quiet. Maybe we're doing a little bit more, meditation, or we're doing some more spiritual work because that Pisces stellium is strong. Now, as the moon continues to go through Capricorn, we're not going to see too many aspects at night. So this will now take us into Tuesday the 5th. And when we wake up in the morning, we're starting to get some trines and some sextiles. So quite a productive day, actually. Moon is sextile Saturn and the sun. So still that same vibe of, okay, Capricorn moon, working, responsibility, getting things done, sticking to a timeline. But the sextile to Saturn and the sun and Mercury tells me that maybe we're doing better off working alone. Maybe we're feeling more productive when we are working in our office with the door closed rather than talking and mingling and social mediaing. Maybe it does mean that, we are preferring to work out of the office. Maybe it means that we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Same day, the moon's coming into a trine with Jupiter. So there's going to be some decent aspects, actually. I'm really liking Tuesday morning for just getting a lot of stuff done. Now, also in the background, we're going to be seeing that the sun is going to start coming into a sextile. Well, not quite yet. It's starting to come into a sextile with Uranus. Let's see. It's the moon. So the moon sextiling the sun. That's what I wrote. Sorry, guys. So the moon sextiling the sun. So that's kind of the vibe for the day. Not much is happening other than that. That moon is going to keep moving. It looks like it's going to pick up the trine to Jupiter midday. And we've got the sun smack dab between Saturn and Mercury. So still quite quiet and reflective. Now, what you are going to see towards the end of the day, around dinner time, is that the moon in Capricorn will square the north and south node. Okay? So when the moon squares its own nodes, it means that there are fateful events happening on the 5th. So this is Tuesday. It can be in the workplace. It can be in relationship to a parent or a superior. When the moon's in Capricorn, it's in its fall. So it is having to do a lot of emotional labor. But pay attention to the events that take place in the early evening, because it can represent something connected to Saturn. So it's not just the Capricorn area of your chart. I'm looking at Saturn. What's going on with Saturn? Well, Saturn's still in conjunction to the sun. Saturn's now kind of starting to lose the sextile to Jupiter. You'll hear me talk about this more on my video on Tuesday, but it's really so much of the next 2 or 3 weeks is kind of this, everything's kind of, dissolving. Things are kind of dissolving away. And we're starting to kind of peel back some of the illusion or some of the film or like the fog that's keeping us blocked or having us feel blocked. So it's possible that we can tap into this moon sextile Saturn and the sun and go like, okay, well, what's the block? You know, am I afraid? Am I not opening up? Am I not tapping in? Am I not taking time to be alone? And you guys will be surprised if you're doing these things, you're going to have so much more clarity. But I think for a lot of us, it's going to be, you know, are we more productive when we are in an environment that is tranquil and peaceful and calming? This is a time where if you're working with music, if you're working with lighting, if you're working with anything that's going to set the tone in your environment, it's going to have a world of difference for your productivity and also for your energy levels. And obviously Saturn in Pisces is teaching all of us more about psychic protection, energetic protection, grounding our energy, cleansing our energy. So as silly as it sounds, like these things have huge, yield positive results for us emotionally and also spiritually if we're doing that work. Now, it looks like the moon is then later in the evening, it's going to start coming into a sextile with Mercury, but that'll happen overnight, and a trine with Uranus. So productivity seems to be something that could be lasting, you know, clear into the evening hours. So if you're somebody who has like a more independent kind of work schedule, you may find that you're just feeling intuitively driven to just keep working into like Wednesday night. So that's going to be something that's going to, Tuesday night, that's going to continue to keep happening. So if you have a later evening, it might be okay. You might feel like you're in the zone and you don't want to kind of break that. Now we get to Wednesday, which is the 6th. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Capricorn. Overnight, it came out of a square with Chiron. And now it's kind of in the early third decan. The moon will then start coming into a sextile with Mercury and also with Neptune. So it's interesting, maybe we are kind of still feeling the beginning warning on Wednesday that we're in sync with something. We're like, okay, we've hit our stride, something is working, it's feeling good, we're getting stuff done, and we're also able to do it in a way that feels, emotionally in alignment. I understand Pisces energy can be really difficult for some people. Definitely Saturn and Pisces can have a lot of people kind of feeling like melancholy or depressed or sad or isolated. Mercury being there can also further this, especially when it comes to communication and self-expression. So for some of us, this Capricorn moon transit, it will feel heavy. And the lesson here, I think, relating back to Saturn is, okay, well, what are your emotions teaching you? What are they showing you? What do you need to do about it? What actions are you taking to actually listen to that and go, okay, I need to follow, and kind of pay attention to what my body is telling me. And if you're feeling heavy, I have lots of recommendations that are going to be coming for you in the next video on Tuesday, but I'll tell you, water, salt and water can be so incredibly helpful. Equally, Jupiter is the dispositor of all these planets in Pisces. Okay, so Jupiter in Taurus can be making sure you're getting the necessary nutrients, the right foods. I feel very strongly that some people are going to look around and they're going to be like, well, I'm sick of feeling like crap. And they're going to have to take a look at, well, what is your sleep habits like? Are you staying up all night and doing your doom scrolling and watching TV and not getting adequate rest? Are you heavily reliant on, substances, and whether that's, pharmaceutical stuff or if it's recreational stuff? Are you drinking? Are you drugging? And equally, what is it time to release and let go of? And how can you start doing that and being more compassionate for your emotional body? And make sure that you're getting, adequate food. Whole foods is so important during these particular transits. I know some people have weird relationships with food. Some people get really upset and they don't eat. And if you're one of those people, then, that's something that you want to be mindful of, that if you're lacking certain nutrients, it can actually have a negative impact on your emotions. And then on the flip side, for people who are heavily consuming, because Jupiter is in Taurus, we're going to see as Jupiter and Uranus get closer to closer, People are going to be spending money like it's going out of style. They're going to be looking at it like, forget it. The world's kind of, going to hell in a handbasket, so I might as well charge up my credit cards. Does that actually make you feel better? These will be things that we'll be looking at. Or, are you really struggling emotionally? So are you consuming? What are you consuming? Are you consuming stuff that's not healthy? Are you consuming stuff that is ultimately not going to make you feel good? So I think one of the best things that you can be doing is trying to be navigating your health and wellness in a more intuitive way. And if the body needs rest, you give the body rest. If you need to be eating less, or you need to be looking at what you're eating and making some changes intuitively. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got about this stuff was from one of my astrological teachers. And he was really big in telling me, because I have a Capricorn stellium, you have to make sure you're getting the adequate minerals. Otherwise, if you're not, you're going to have all kinds of mood disorders and all kinds of things. And he's right. That, and also high quality water. And he took me to the grocery store, and we walked around, and he would have me pick up food, and he would say, hold this. How does it feel? Does it feel good? And we looked like two crazy people, in the middle of Whole Foods, for real. And there's a lot of weirdos there anyway, but whatever. But literally would have me pick up produce and hold it. And he'd be like, what do you think? And if you don't think, you don't buy it. And I was like, this is nuts. And now 7, 8, 9 years later, I'm like, that guy, he knew exactly what he was talking about. And he told me a lot also about water quality and the effects of, water, making sure that you're drinking, high quality water, and the minerals that you are going to need, especially if you have a really strong Saturn kind of signature, that you may not have, and it can create lower moods, 100%. So even if you're not one of those people, I guess my point is if you're not feeling well, I would really get down to basics this week and ask yourself, what am I consuming? Watching, eating, smoking, drinking, that kind of stuff. And then ask yourself, what is the vibration of that thing? Do I want to be around it? Do I want to be putting it in my body? If not, you can let things go. As we start seeing planets come into conjunction with Saturn, we create a boundary and we go, that doesn't make me feel good. So I'm going to do things that make me feel good. And believe it or not, Taurus teaches us that it can be the simple things. It doesn't have to be a really expensive designer bag. It could be being able to sit outside and hanging out with your kids, or going for a walk in the park with your partner, or being able to sit down and spend an hour reading a book on the couch. Simple things that are meant to be leisurely, pleasurely. Can it be the excess of food and spending money in those things? Sure. Is that actually going to make us feel good? Probably not. So we're going to recognize this week, hey, something's missing. What do I need to do to kind of fill that gap? And you're going to realize it's not things at all. Now, we're going to move on from the 6th. As we go through the day, you're going to see an ingress where the moon is going to go into Aquarius. Looks like it's going to happen overnight. And that brings us to, let's see, is it overnight? No, it's in the evening hours. I take that back. So it's going to be Wednesday, later in the day, around dinner time. The moon's going to shift into Aquarius. Okay? And so when that happens, first planet the moon's going to hit is Pluto. So you're going to notice that dramatic mood shift that will be happening right around the 6th. We're also preparing and getting ready to go into what will eventually be the new moon in Pisces. And I got to tell you guys something. Even though this new moon is not going to be taking place until closer to the 10th, the 6th through the 10th, you want to watch. Watch what happens. See the moon? It's got to hit a lot of planets before it gets to the sun. It's going to hit Pluto, so it's going to go through an emotional purification, purge. It's going to hit Mars, so it's going to feel agitated and annoyed. It's going to square Uranus, so there's going to be some kind of dramatic change. It's going to hit Venus, and it's going to go, okay, I think I'm feeling a little bit better. Shift into Pisces, and then hit Saturn. Oof. When I tell you the 6th through the 10th is a really good time to say, I'm cutting out all of the things that drive me crazy, don't feel good, disassociating or disconnecting with certain groups or friends, or, kind of leveling up when it comes to your goals. The Pluto-Mars aspect makes me feel like it's a clearing. And usually when we see the moon go through, the sign prior, that's when we kind of do our removing, cord cutting, clearing, kind of starting fresh energy before we get into the new moon. I will tell you this is probably going to be quite an eventful time politically, because that's Aquarius. But it also can be about the internet or energy or things that are going on with collective groups and movements. So it's a very contradictory energy, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, because we see the stellium of planets in Aquarius, which is like people banding together, seeing lots of, talk about freedom and revolution and, thinking about the future. And then you're going to see a lot of planets that are going to be in Pisces, which is kind of like, okay, don't bother me. I'm going to go and hide under my rock. So kind of back and forth energy with this one. But watch for the mood shift when the moon hits Pluto. And that will be in the early PM hours on Wednesday. So then the moon is going to start to separate from Pluto overnight. We then begin to see on Thursday morning, the moon's going to come into contact. Well, before it does, the moon's going to square Jupiter. So hello, big feelings, big financial fluctuations, big shifts in regards to resources, big changes in regards to our self-esteem and I think our sense of beliefs. And then the moon's going to come into contact with Mars. And whenever the moon's in Aquarius, we're looking at Saturn, but I look at Uranus because it's the modern day ruler. And so you're going to see this on Thursday night, okay? Thursday night, the moon starts coming into conjunction with Mars. So this is very social, very passionate. This can be fun. This can be about get-togethers, gatherings, parties. We've got Venus in this sign as well. And the moon's trining the south node, and it's sextiling the north node right here. So where our goals are really ramping up, where we are aligning with certain movements, certain campaigns, we are socializing and connecting with people and feeling more active, more independent, right? So that's kind of a fun energy for a Thursday night, if I do say so myself. But you're going to start to feel, as the moon crosses Mars mid-evening, kind of in the middle of the night, also, Mars is coming into a square with Uranus. Okay, so maybe you're sensitive, you're feeling this on Thursday, even though it looks like it's not going to perfect until closer to Friday or Saturday. Looks like it'll perfect on Saturday. So then early in the morning, the moon leaves the conjunction with Mars. It's heading towards Venus. Okay, I'm not mad at this. Friday morning, the 8th. Okay, so this is moon conjunct Venus. So we wake up, maybe we're craving sweets, we're craving, company, we are wanting to, be around other people. It can be great for relationships and friendships and socializing and gatherings. I like that. However, the moon, being in conjunction to Mars and Venus is saying people can be very passionate. People can be very, very creative. They can be feeling very adventurous. There can be a lot of stuff changing with relationships and friendships. And we start feeling that Mars beaming down on Uranus. Now, according to my notes, it's not going to square until the 9th, but usually, the days leading up to, so I would say like really from the 7th through the 12th is when you're going to be feeling the Mars-Uranus square. And that's a really big energy this week. Now, we're also starting to see Mercury getting really close to Neptune. So let's see here. Let's stick to my notes. So moon in Aquarius, coming out of the square with Uranus, where there's some destabilizing, hits Venus first thing in the morning. So people are wanting to kind of connect and communicate and be social. We're going to have that clear into the afternoon. And then that moon is going to shift into Pisces, and that's going to be in the PM hours on the 8th. Okay, so we'll definitely feel this mood change. I don't mind the moon being conjunct Mars and Venus because I think it's fun. But I also know as we're coming into the dark moon phase right before the new moon, people get kind of grouchy. So that Mars, moon, Venus thing can definitely be, some friction that we're having with other people, possibly. Dramatic mood shift on Friday night. I'm going to be honest with you, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday feels very quiet, very reflective. Like this does not feel like an energy where you're going out, you're bar hopping, you're partying, you're doing this, you're doing that. Unless you're like a Scorpio rising or, maybe you're a Capricorn rising. Maybe, let's see, who's going to have Pisces in the 11th? unless you're a Taurus rising, maybe some of those placements, because it might be like more in social houses. But as that moon drops into Pisces, you know, we're getting quiet. We're getting private. We're reflecting. We may feel like, you know, we don't want to go out. We don't want to socialize, because this is an energy that turns inward. It's feminine. And so then the moon is going to come into contact first with Saturn. So that's going to be happening overnight on Friday. I feel like Moon-Saturn conjunctions on one hand are really difficult to emotionally connect and relate. But on the other hand, you know, the moon does well in a water sign, and maybe going through Saturn is like, no, this is going to be a weekend where we're going to slow down. We're going to take it easy. We are resting. We're recuperating. We are not going out and doing a bunch of things and being social. Or maybe you're making this a weekend that's a weekend of intent, you know, intentfulness. Especially now that you guys are watching this like a week in advance, I would say definitely if you have the capabilities either on Friday or Friday and Saturday to be like, these are going to be slow moving days, I would recommend it. This is now what I'm planning on doing. I already have planned to not work on Saturday, but now this inspires me even more Friday through Sunday to be like, no, I need to be really present with what's going on with Saturn and also the new moon. Anyway, so overnight, this is going to be Friday, which I don't really think a lot of people are going to be going out and doing anything personally because they're going to be in their fields. Overnight, we see the moon continue to keep moving through Pisces. And we wake up in the morning on Saturday, and the moon's coming into conjunction with Saturn. Okay, so that's going to happen first thing in the morning. Well, this is the first real aspect in Pisces that the moon is going to make throughout its new moon in Pisces. So Saturn represents the boundary, the barrier, the limit, and Moon Saturn is emotional. So we can be moving through some stuff emotionally. It has kind of similar feels of like when the moon is in Capricorn, and it's at a 10. So we're having to work through some emotional things. We're having to kind of deal with home, deal with family, deal with difficult relationship issues. And it can feel very quiet and reflective as the moon is coming into its new moon phase. Now, that's a decent energy. I'm okay with it if I know that it's going to be a weekend of, you know, maybe not, you know, socializing much or staying off my phone or, you know, trying to meditate more and kind of zen out. But in the back end, you know, Mars is coming into a square with Uranus. And I think that that's going to be a very loud energy because the North Node is ruled by Mars. So Mars being in Aquarius is about the movement of groups and actions, and the square to Uranus represents pressure on finances, money, resources. I do feel like this is probably going to materialize as more of some of these like trucker protests and other people who are, you know, protesting and talking about things that are going on with like spending, because that's literally what the square represents. Can there be some intensity going on between our relationships with other people and money? Yes, I think that's what part of this is about. Because Taurus is a financial sign and Uranus represents where we can have fluctuations in money. I've heard this a lot from people the last couple of weeks where a lot of partners and relationships are having issues over money, or I'm hearing family estate drama. I'm hearing issues revolving around, you know, people feeling unsupported by partners financially, or not feeling appreciated by employers and not feeling like compensated for the work that they're doing. So obviously, you know, difficult subjects, but this is kind of when it starts to hit home is the 9th and the 10th. Now Mars represents the North Node, so it's about our individual path. And Mars can be about cutting, removing, ending, disconnecting. And Uranus is about power. It's about energy. It is about the internet. It is about some kind of opportunity to have more freedom when it comes to resources. So I'm anticipating from Saturday and Sunday, there being some pretty significant something going on with these topics. And I said to you guys last week, but it's like if there's going to be a time where there's issues with banking, if there's issues with ATMs, if there's issues with the internet or power, this would be the one that you guys are going to see. And the irony that it's happening right when we're coming into a new moon in Pisces where everything winds down anyway, I'm just going to say, being that this is kind of take it easy and mind your own business type of weekend, and knowing that these squares are coming is a really good time to be like, I have everything that I need for the weekend. If you're somebody that likes to go out and you like to do your grocery shopping on Sunday, best bet is going and doing it on Thursday night. Getting all the stuff done that you need to get done on Thursday, so you know if you just need to hang out, have a relaxing weekend, not go out and deal with the crowds, not go out and deal with like people who are being kind of Looney Tunes, this would be the time to do it. You know, similarly, when I said to you guys that we saw like the Mars-Pluto conjunction, I was like, look, you know, you're going to see something with like a crazy person in a crowd. Unfortunately, I was right. We saw that stuff that happened with like the Chiefs parade where, you know, there was a shooter. Keep in mind that, you know, the dispositor of Uranus is Venus, and Venus is coming to some critical degrees. And also, we've still got Pluto in Aquarius. Is Mars square Uranus just as deadly as Mars-Pluto? No, not necessarily, but I have seen situations, you know, in previous world events where Mars square Uranus, especially when Mars is connected to the North Node, that we see transformers kind of burn out and melt down. We see internet outages. We see cell phone outages. I've seen angry mobs. I've seen wildfires. I've seen, I mean, like, you know, Mars, Uranus archetypes. So knowing that this is going to go down in the midst of a dark moon, you know, take it easy, stay in. You know, try to kind of tune the world out a little bit and create your own little like Zen den, your own little oasis, you know. And with Mars square Uranus, people are going to have a temper. They're going to be agitated. They're going to be short, and they're going to be kind of frustrated, or they're going to feel like they're in a rush, or they're impatient. Mars can represent things that cut, burn, sever, or go fast. For some of us, we may feel like this is the breaking point where we're like, that's it. I finally have to wash my hands of this situation or this person or this job. And you can get angry about it, or you can decide that you're going to lean into the Pisces stuff and you can go, no, I'm just letting it go. I'm just letting it go, and choosing to diffuse a situation rather than, you know, having some conflict is recommended in my opinion. Now, same day, we're going to see the Sun in Pisces sextile Uranus, which is kind of mirroring the same thing. It's like, I'm just going to quietly take some time to pause and reflect and kind of let this go and reground my energy. I saw a meme the other day on, I think it was on Instagram, and somebody, it was like a quote from Overheard in LA, and it was like a woman talking to her partner, and she was like, you're being too much right now. You need to go regulate your nervous system and get back to me. And I like almost fell off my chair laughing, because that is the epitome of the Pisces sextiles to Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. It's like, everybody is so used to being in this high stress environment, and they're so used to acting very impulsively and critically. And also there can be a sense of being very hard-headed and unwilling to bend, that people are starting to kind of like literally make themselves sick, or they're recognizing that, you know, they don't get what they want, and then they try to get a reaction from somebody else. So my advice is to work with the Sun in Pisces sextile Uranus and recognize where other people are just so out of their mind, they're so impatient, they're reacting, they're freaking out, and you may have to just be like, please, you know, just go collect yourself, take some time, get back to me. I'm here, but I'm not going to partake in this. And that may be the best way to utilize some of this energy, because Mars square Uranus, especially if you're a Mars chart, you're going to be feeling a little bit more impulsive. So my Aries risings, my Scorpio risings, my Aquariuses, you know, Aquarius, it's kind of doubly for you because you got Mars in your sign, and it's also squaring Uranus. So it's going to be you kind of maybe going back and forth with another person. Not a transit that I would sleep on, and it's going to be felt for a couple days. Now, later in the day, we're going to start to feel this Mercury ingress. So Mercury at 29. Mercury's been in conjunction to Neptune, by the way. I don't know if I said that to you guys, but Mercury's been in conjunction to Neptune since the 8th. And so I spoke on this in a recent video, but I'll say it again. Misunderstandings, miscommunications, having issues with clarity, not seeing things so clearly, deception, dishonesty, and the late degrees of Pisces is when we have a real challenge with reality, because we start to kind of realize what we thought we knew, what we thought was true was an illusion, or it wasn't real, On the flip side, it's a very spiritual transit. This would be a time that, you know, if you can meditate more, if you can be journaling, if you want to be pulling your tarot cards and doing all of that stuff, do it. Because that may be the only way for you to get any answers, right? And it's weird because I've kind of felt like this through this transit. Like I always pull 3 cards of the day and I put them out and they're like there on my altar space. But I've noticed more so that like I'm trying to make decisions about things and I'm like, I just don't know what to do. And then I'll look at my cards of the day and I'm like, that literally mirrors the situation. So I've, right, me, the person who does this for a living, am now kind of being like, no, this is something that's coming up that I need to kind of like meditate on all day and keep that energy in mind. So if you have a form of like divination or something that you do, it can be wonderful to kind of get you through this period. But Mercury conjunct Neptune, we see a lot of mental health issues. And then Mercury, when it hits 29, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like I want to pull my hair out because I feel like there's just so much collective sadness or emotional heaviness, especially with Saturn being in this sign, or worry, or, you know, for me, it's felt a lot like people are kind of giving up and they're throwing in the towel and they're like, what's the point? And I can see that because, you know, Pisces represents completions and endings, that 12th house energy, but it's also supposed to be about faith because Jupiter rules Pisces. So it's about faith, and faith, I think, holding on and being strongly connected to our faith. So you may be somebody who's like, I need to be, you know, reading the Bible, or I need to be practicing my religion or my spirituality or my faith, more so to get me through this time, to know that, you know, we're going to come out through the other side and that, you know, this too shall pass. But when Mercury's at 29, it feels critical with communication. So it's going to finally break into Aries, and that's going to happen late at night on the 9th. And so that's kind of building off of what I was telling you guys. You go through some of these difficult, you know, transits with all these planets in conjunction to Saturn and Neptune, and then Mercury changes signs, and at least we've got, you know, the mind that's ready and willing to go. And this leads us into Sunday, which will be early on Sunday morning. We've got a new moon in Pisces. And so I did a video on that. I've talked about it quite a bit, but I will say that this new moon is so significant because it's still about acceptance and grace and faith and needing to maintain and hold a vision of what we are building, what we are creating, even if we can't see it yet, even if it seems impossible. You know, the sextiles to Jupiter and Uranus promise some kind of substantial growth, a turn or a twist of fate, some kind of physical, financial change that is coming. And sometimes, you know, when I get anxious, I try to like ask myself like, okay, is this your intuition or is this your anxiety? You guys might have to ask yourself that this week because with Mercury in Pisces, you never know. But when I find myself kind of going to like worst case scenario, I try to stop myself in the thought process and I try to kind of ask myself like, but what if it does work? Or what if it does turn out a lot better than you think? And I try to kind of turn that around. And I think that maybe that can be helpful for some of you guys when you start kind of feeling this doubt that might creep in, or this heaviness, or this feeling of, you know, running out of steam. Certainly planets coming into conjunction with Saturn and Neptune has this like energy sucking effect. But at the very least, what we do have working in our favor with this new moon is we have Mercury in Aries, which is, I can start over, I can learn, I can, you know, I can turn over a new leaf. And looking at it as, you know, any day that you decide that you want to start over, you have the opportunity to do that. Yes, you are probably going to feel like you have to get your mind on board before you really start seeing some physical changes over the next couple of months, but it's a start, right? And so with that new moon in Pisces, smack dab between Saturn and Neptune, and it's on the Saturn-Neptune midpoint, it's about compassion, it's about empathy. And that's not just for other people, that's for yourself as well. So there is a need to be understanding and sympathetic and be willing to kind of give way and not be so hard on yourself, or recognize that the emotions need to be acknowledged to be able to move through things. That seems to be the key. This particular new moon will become an eclipse in mid-September of 2024. This will be the first eclipse in a series of what will eventually be Virgo Pisces eclipses in 2025. And this will be an eclipse that's going to be round about the same degree, right between Saturn and Neptune. So this is definitely a new moon that I would not sleep on. I mean, you can sleep, it's Pisces, but I wouldn't sleep on it. You know, I would really sit and maintain and create a vision. I'm going to create a vision board. I think that's what I'm going to do with this new moon personally. Because I know that it's not about what's physically here yet. It's about what I am intending on growing, what I'm intending on creating, right? And it can be very, very, very beneficial for you in the long run, because you'll see when the eclipse comes in the fall, it's going to square Jupiter. So it will almost materialize as like, you know, if you have an idea for a new social media account, for a new website, if you want to write a book, if you want to teach something, if you want to learn something, it can be kind of a fortuitous, eclipse for you in about 6 months' time. It can actually be bigger than you anticipated. All right, so we're going to continue to keep moving through this. Obviously, the new moon ain't quite done until it comes into Aries. So as the day goes on, then the moon is going to conjunct Neptune. So all the more reason why I like this for vision boarding, you know, collages of photos, meditation, working with sound, all of that stuff, because we're going to be feeling it pretty much all day. And then the moon is going to leave Pisces and go into Aries, and that's going to be at night on the 10th. And what you'll see actually is then the moon will come into conjunction with Mercury. So as far as I'm concerned, anytime on Sunday, you can basically set your intentions. Like if you really wanted to, you could vibe out Friday, Saturday into Sunday morning. And then round about Sunday evening, you'll be like, okay, I've taken, you know, a day or 2 or 3 to unwind, relax, and really think about what it is that I'm going to be initiating and starting. Now that I feel like I am, you know, more so grounded and I know what direction I'm going in, moon conjuncts Mercury, I am doing this. This is my goal. This is what I'm initiating. So much of Pisces and Taurus teaches us that if we don't have adequate downtime, if we're not regulating our nervous systems, if we're not sleeping, if we're not connecting with nature, then we are going to fall out of sync with nature. And there in turn, it's going to kind of disconnect us from that energy. And so I encourage you guys to really make the most of this weekend, and in any which shape and form you can, even if it's a few hours, if you can't take several days, if it's a few hours, you're taking that time around Friday, Saturday into Sunday to take time to reflect before you decide what you're going to be initiating and what you're going to be doing. And likely you're going to feel very empowered about what steps you're taking forward, and you've come to terms with things that you need to kind of release or you need to end. And then, you know, we're preparing for Aries season to be coming up in the next week, right? Anyway, with that being said, I hope that that's helpful for you. You know, I would encourage you guys to really pay attention to what comes up for you mentally on Sunday night with that ingress of the moon conjunct Mercury, but also because it's sextiling Pluto. So there's some major transformation of your goals and something that you're hoping to achieve or that you're hoping to do. And it can be very powerful, right? So I want to talk to you guys about Mercury in Aries, just so you know where this is taking place. As always, I am a Western astrologer. That's what I practice. I do not practice Vedic astrology. I'm sorry. I'm a Western astrologer, so this will be the tropical predictions for the 12 rising signs. Now, to make the most of my predictions, you're going to want to listen to your ascendant sign horoscope first. Then you can listen to your sun sign and your moon sign. But listen to your rising. Aries will, like I said, Mercury will be in Aries for 2 months. I believe it's going to make its way all the way up to about 24, 25 degrees, if I remember correctly. So everybody can listen to their whole rising sign, or you just want to look at your Placidus chart where 0 degrees Aries is, and you might have to listen to more than one sign. If all this sounds like complete, like Latin to you, consider booking a reading with an astrologer, or you can go on astro.com. You can put in your birth chime information, cast your chart, and look at what sign or what house Aries is in. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I'd love to help you. You can find my session links below. You can go to beyondtheveiledtarot.com and book a one-on-one session with me, and I can talk to you about these transits. All right, so we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising, okay? So we're going to talk about this Mercury ingress. So for you, Aries, obviously, you know, you, Gemini, and Virgos are going to be feeling this the most because Mercury's in your sign and Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So you guys are going to kind of feel this ingress probably more than most people, unless you have personal placements in Aries. So for you, this is all about your communication, yourself, your identity. Mercury rules how you communicate, how you travel, how you move, and it also rules your health and your daily routine. So as Mercury crosses into the first house, you may feel like there's an idea that comes to you very quickly, something that you can be writing, something you can be working on, something that you're organizing. It's also going to be bringing a huge focus to your personal identity and your personal expression, your self-expression. This is how you write, how you move, how you communicate, what you're learning. I will say that so much about this particular Mercury retrograde that will be coming for you next month is going to be about your health. It's going to be about rethinking how you communicate, how you express yourself, and how you can be really working through some communication issues and better expressing yourself in a way that's going to bring you better mental and physical health. New routines that might be coming up for you as well. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So possibly there's, you know, some kind of insight that you have on what needs to be changing in these departments. The card that I get for you is the Seven of Wands. So this is a positive card. This is about staying on top of things, standing your ground, boundaries, defending your position, challenge, perseverance, protectiveness, and protecting your territory. So you might be feeling like you're more inclined to tell people like, I need some space, or I'm not ready yet, or I'll call you, don't call me, right? And so I do think that that is true. I think that it's going to be about maybe how often you're, you know, communicating with people. Maybe you're setting some new boundaries with phone calls after work or emails, or you're becoming more aware of, you know, how to better kind of express yourself so you're not kind of getting as mentally frazzled. Okay. Good luck, Aries. We have Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to see Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 12th house. All right, so for you, my Tauruses, this is about spirituality in the subconscious. This is about a focus on self-reflection and inner growth and a more assertive approach to your spiritual practices, okay? So Mercury rules finances, money, resources, also creativity and self-expression in children. Obviously, an extended period of Mercury being in your 12th house might mean that you are focusing more on meditation. Maybe you are reflecting on something about your values and your resources. It can also be a time where you're wanting to, you know, meditate more. You're wanting to be in private more. You're working or kind of creating things behind the scenes more as well. This is definitely a time to prioritize alone time and rest and recuperation, because that is the 12th house. There can be some changes with your sleep habits. There can also be some changes in some of your hobbies and making yourself feel like you need to make more time for these things. And watch your dreams here as well, because your dreams in this area of your chart can be very telling for some stuff that you're working out subconsciously. The card that I got for you is the Three of Coins. So this is about working diligently as a team. You know, I think about like Pluto being in your 10th house, and there can be a lot changing with you in your professional life. And maybe it's just this feeling of like, you know, it's best if you're doing some of this work alone. So maybe you're supporting a team or doing work in that way, but you need your own time or your own office to do that. Because this is a card of collaboration and working with other people and skills and shared goals, and also pooling your energy. So it might be a time where you're having to learn how to delegate tasks to other people more and letting other people know like, hey, like this is what I can do, you know, this is what I need you guys to do, and like not feeling super overwhelmed with getting consumed with something that's going on professionally. Good luck, Taurus. For my Gemini and Gemini risings, you will be experiencing Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 11th house. Pretty interesting transit for you. Obviously, you're ruled by Mercury because you're a Gemini. So it does deal with you personally. So 2 months of Mercury in your 11th house does make me feel like it's a very social time, because this is about friendships and community. There will be a focus on career advancement. There will be a focus on community involvement and assertive community with friends and acquaintances. So, you know, initiating groups, clubs, going to parties, social kind of get-togethers, things like that, especially that involves family or your home. So it can be like, you know, families having birthday parties, get-togethers, events like that, family reunions. There can also be lots of celebrations going on for family members in general, and it can mean that you're inviting people over to your home or vice versa. I also feel like this is a huge turning point for you initiating and making some of your, you know, family or personal goals happen. So you might be the person who's kind of spearheading this. I do think it's nice because it is, you know, sextiling your ascendant, and it's also trining your descendant. So it does open up the door for more travel, communication, relationships with other people. Like generally, it's a pretty positive transit for you, especially because the 11th house does represent like goals. So there can be a sense of you celebrating some of your accomplishments with other people and really enjoying that time that you're having, you know, working with new groups. The card that I get for you is the Chariot, which is interesting because that has like a Cancer energy. It's kind of like a 4th house energy. So the Chariot's about action, success, movement, control, willpower, determination, two opposing forces working together. So rather than feeling like, oh, I have to be the one who's doing everything or being the party coordinator or, you know, being the person who's kind of gathering everybody together, it may mean that you have friends or family that are supporting you and helping you do this. If you want to move, if you want to achieve some new goal, if you're wanting to be more social, like you're going to have other people who are going to be helping you do that. And overall, it's a pretty positive transit for you, Gemini. I think that you're going to enjoy it. Very busy social schedule. Good luck. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you'll be doing Mercury's ingress in Aries into your natal 10th house. So for you guys, this is all about your career, your public image, your reputation. There will be a focus on career advancement. And I think being more assertive in professional settings. That is what is arriving. Now, Mercury rules your 12th house of the subconscious and things that are hidden. It also rules your 3rd house of communication. Well, let me put it this way. Here's the positive. If there is a time to really stand out in a professional workspace, now is the time. Because the 12th house can be associated with your hidden talents and your ability to communicate and navigate and like negotiate. So maybe that's coming out through your career sector. If there is a time to really get serious about making a job change or launching a business or airing out some concerns maybe that you have with a boss or an employer, this is definitely a time that this can happen. There can be some secret, unexpected meetings, emails, you know, conversations that are being had that are kind of coming out into the open at work that need to be dealt with to have better communication in the workplace. This is also a time where you may change jobs or be waiting to hear back from, you know, a job interview. There can be a change going on with upper management that can be happening here as well. But overall, this is about being more assertive out in the world and feeling heard and being like more of a leader. So I think that maybe it's about overcoming a fear of rejection, overcoming a fear of people not receiving you well, or being afraid to kind of stand out or to be more independent in a professional sense. It can feel a little bit more action-packed for you, Cancer, because this is happening, obviously, in a cardinal sign. And it is 10 signs away from your ascendant. So it has like the Saturn energy where you're like, okay, I'm afraid of criticism, or I'm afraid of going out on my own, or being independent, or starting something new. When in reality, this can be a huge turning point for like a new chapter in your career. You know, over the next 2 months, there's a lot of energy here that initiates some new beginning in your professional life or your reputation. So it can be, you know, with relationships or, you know, parenting, that can kind of come up too. But in the long term, I think about like the next 2 years, you know, Saturn and Neptune going into your 10th house, it's going to be a complete reworking of your professional life. That is what's coming. So this might be the beginning process of realizing, well, what do I want to do? What direction am I going in? That kind of stuff. Good news is that you get the Ace of Coins. So this is about positive news in regards to money, resources, stability, and finances. Potential offers can be coming up. Hey, I think that might be happening around the solar eclipse because the sun rules your money house. Material offer, new job or promotion, new opportunities, manifestation, resources, stability, and prosperity. So that's a really, really good card for you to be pulling. So whatever is changing, I think likely it's changing for the better. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be doing Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 9th house. And this is a fellow sister fire sign, so it's a friendly aspect for you, my Leos. When you see Mercury's ingress into the 9th house, this is about traveling, this is about learning, it can be about education, it can be about publishing, law and legality can come up here too. So this is bringing a focus to travel and exploration and a much more direct approach to traveling, learning, or your beliefs. Now, Mercury has associations with your 2nd house of money, personal possessions, and resources, and also your 11th house of friends and goals. So one thing you want to watch for, because Mercury will eventually retrograde in this part of the sky, is buying plane tickets, traveling, accommodations, things like that. I recommend doing it before the 18th of March because you are going to see that the shadow is going to set in and there could be some setbacks, delays, or changes to your travel schedule. This can also be about when you are paying for education, certification, training. It can be a time where you're investing more in learning in some capacity, formal or informal. And it can be a time where you're possibly considering doing some traveling with friends because it's picking up the energy of the 11th house. In traveling independently can be a theme here as well, where if you were planning on doing something with friends and then a friend drops out, you're like, you know what, I'm still gonna go even if that other person can't meet me. And it's positive. The 9th house is about the bigger picture of our life. So there is something shifting revolving around what you believe in and what your goals are and what you value. And it might mean that you're like, you know what, I'm actually valuing traveling more. So it's changing my relationship with spending and what I'm actually buying or what I'm consuming. And probably, you know, traveling being a huge theme for you over like the next year with the eclipses that are coming in here as well. So let's see what the cards say for you, my Leos. You get Temperance. I like this actually because it's healing, right? Temperance is about healing, balance, harmony, patience, self-control, moderation, purpose, peace, calm, and serenity. So really great cards. Maybe you're realizing that you need to be investing a little bit more in, you know, learning about healing, learning about meditation. Maybe you realize that it's worth what you're spending traveling because it brings so much more peace and balance to your life. Maybe you're getting some training or certification that has to do with health or healing. That can happen here as well. Or healing a situation about how you feel about yourself. Aries is the self after all. So maybe you're healing something in that capacity. Anyway, looks good for you, my Leos. Keep me updated. Good luck. We've got Virgo rising and Virgo sun and moon as well. Obviously, this is important for you, my Virgos, because Mercury rules your chart. So you're going to see Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 8th house. Okay, so first things first is that Mercury is your chart ruler. So wherever Mercury goes is where you are, and Aries is the sign that in conjuncts or quincunx is your sign. It's interesting that that Mercury is going through this part of the chart and like all of the things that it's going to be doing with the eclipses and all that stuff. So I'll just keep it simple. The 8th house is basically about transformation, okay? It's about endings and beginnings. Letting some things go, bringing in new things. It's also about healing, or it can be about shared resources. So when Mercury goes into this house, there's a focus on financial independence and assertive communication in shared resources. So learning when to be like, you owe me this, or this is mine, or I need this in return, or, you know, what am I getting access to? Because Aries is a me first kind of energy and it's in the 8th. So if you're anticipating getting a tax refund, getting an inheritance, getting a return of some kind, if you're having to discuss joint resources with another person or debts or loans, this can all come up here. Mercury also deals with the 10th house of career. So it can be a strong negotiating time where you're negotiating a raise, new benefits, more money, some kind of bonus, you know, something like that. And and you're having to go back and forth about, you know, what it is that you want out of the deal or out of taking a new position. That can be a huge theme. But it can also be about healing something emotionally, psychologically, you know, physically. There is a need to tend to a wound, and it can be about vulnerability, intimacy, or fears about endings and like letting things go. So it can feel a little uncomfortable here, but I would really get familiar with this because in my opinion, you know, I think back to when I had like North Node transit through there the last 2 years in retrogrades. It was more about learning to accept, learning to receive, and being like, yes, okay, thank you. Like learning how to say, you know, thank you, and leaving the door open for people to support you. And ultimately what this is going to do is it's going to create a clearing in your second house of resources and self-esteem, but it's because something else is being brought to you. So changing the way that you look at transformation. The card that I get for you is the Six of Wands, which is a positive card. It's a card of victory and overcoming obstacles, success, public recognition, achievement, confidence, victory, award, triumph, praise. What is this? Acclaim, pride, and rewards. So there is something that's waiting for you, I think, as long as you're willing to receive it. I think it can be a time also where something that is due to be returned to you kind of comes back. You might see that as well. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You'll be doing Mercury's ingress into the sign of Aries in your 7th house. For you, Libra, this is all going to be about partnerships and relationship. There is a huge focus on direct and assertive communication in partnerships and relationships with other people. Mercury rules the 12th house of the hidden and the subconscious, and also the 9th house, which deals with your beliefs, your philosophy, and learning. Okay, my Libras. So first of all, same thing goes for the other cardinal signs. This can feel a little stressful because it is in a sign that opposes or squares you. In this case, it opposes you. 7th house is your marketplace. It is your clients. It is your romantic partners, your committed partners, your business partners, your astrologer, your therapist. What the irony is that this can also be about the relationship with yourself, because Aries is self. So if I kind of backtrack a little bit and I think about what's going on outside of the Mercury retrograde, where, okay, yeah, most astrologers would say, oh, Mercury retrograde in the 7th, you're going to hear from your ex, or you're going to have a misunderstanding with your partner, or, you know, there can be some, you know, secrets or things that you're revealing to a partner. Sure, all of those things are true. But the bigger picture is that you have the South Node going through your sign. So you're releasing or letting go of something personally. It can be an emotional release. You can physically be changing. You can be letting go of indecisiveness. So what's going to happen here is you're going to see more direct communication with other people, having to be more assertive with others, telling them what your needs are, what your fears are, laying it all out there, and not being afraid of confrontation, because part of what's going on is you're learning how to maybe heal issues within yourself, and it's coming up in relationships, right? Can other people have terrible communication during this time? Yeah. But Mercury in the 7th can be a time where you get a coach, or you get a trainer, or you talk to a therapist, or you get a reading. It can be a time also where you're really focusing on your communication with your closer committed relationships or partners as well. I do think that your view of relationships are going to be changing in some way. That's what I think with this transit. And then the eclipses are just like the icing on the cake, because you're going to see an eclipse in your sign. And then the beginning of April, you'll see a solar eclipse and a Mercury retrograde. I really feel inclined to tell you that some of the issues that come up can literally be with other people, right? It can be other people's fears, pain, insecurities, other people's inability to heal themselves. And it can create some issues with you where you're like, this is not my stuff. If you're single, it can be a time where a really significant relationship can come into your life. If you're in a committed relationship, it can be definitely a little bit more challenging here, because there is definitely going to be a need to hold partners accountable for their wounding and learning how to be like, nope, you need to deal with this. This is not my stuff. And that may be hard for you, Libra, because it might mean that you have to have a little bit of some confrontation. Okay, so the card that I get for you is the Eight of Coins. So this is a positive card. This means that you can work on it. You can work through it. You're actually learning to work harder in relationships. This is about mastering your craft, focusing on your dedication, hard work, skill development, talent, commitment, and also high standards. And I think this is true. I think that it's going to play out very much in relations to other people. But remember that part of the reason why some of this stuff is coming up is because there's a change going on with your relationship to yourself. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be doing Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 6th house. And this is a sign that in conjuncts or quincunxes you, Scorpio, so it feels a little agitating, a little annoying. It's also ruled by Mars, just like you. And so when you have Mercury go through the 6th house, first things first is Mercury does very well in this house because it is associated naturally with Virgo energy. So the 6th house is that. So the 6th house Mercury transit is going to be about health and work, and you're going to be focusing on efficiency and assertive communication with coworkers. You're going to be finding yourself probably rearranging or changing your office. It can be a time where you are also focusing on seeing some kind of transformation in a health-related situation. Mercury has connections to your goals and also friendships or networks. And it also has connections to your 8th house of transformation. Now, I'm sure you've heard either me or other astrologers telling you, hi, you'll have a Mercury retrograde here, you'll have an eclipse here, Chiron is here. So for some Scorpio risings, it can literally manifest as a health problem. So Mercury coming into the 6th house is like giving you that heads up. That's like, hey, if you're not feeling well, if you're having issues, if you're having headaches, migraines, rashes, burns, digestional issues, it's letting you know there's something that needs to be tended to here. Now, on the flip side, it's a time where if you want to create new systems, a new schedule, a new routine, wonderful for that. And so I do think that it starts with you, Aries. And as I've said in previous videos, it doesn't matter where Aries is in your chart. That's where you're starting the cycle for this next year. So really, Scorpio, if you want to feel the most capable, if you want to be the most productive, then you have to be willing to do the nitty-gritty work when it comes to your health and also your routine. So possibly, I think this can be about you really figuring out what are your goals and how can I arrange a life that's making it possible for me to do that, and equally recognizing that in order to obtain these goals, you're going to have to make some changes, and the changes might be about the way that you look at your health or your productivity or your job or, how you are of service to other people. And it might mean that, you have to tend to yourself first. You have to heal those issues, those physical wounds, those emotional wounds before you're able to really fully show up for other people. There can also be much more of an emphasis on the health of coworkers or of pets. That can definitely come up here as well. And I can definitely see a lot of Scorpio risings with like an eclipse and a retrograde here, getting into like a new fitness or a health or a gym routine. That's definitely a theme for sure. The card that I get is the King of Swords. I love this. This is, you can't see it right now, but I put the Emperor up as my card of the day behind me. And I feel like this is similar vibes. Like if I think of, the kings, they're a master of their energy. And in this case, it's the master of thought and communication. So perfect for Mercury in the 6th house in Aries. I think it's a very can-do attitude. It's a not I'll try or I'll think about it. It's like, no, I'm doing this. I'm committing to it. If you're saying that you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So the King of Swords can be a person who comes in that can help you, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. But this is about mental clarity, intellectual power, truth, authority, reason, discipline, high standards, head over heart, integrity, serious and strict. So maybe you're getting more serious and strict about your health, your routine, your habits, right? And this can be good because it can lead to better health, but also better productivity. Good luck, Scorpio. Let me know how it goes. We have Sag and Sag rising. You will experience Mercury's transit into your natal 5th house in a fellow fire sign. So this is a fun transit for you, Saggies. I think you guys are the ones who are going to have the most fun with the transits in Aries personally. So, when you have Mercury enter into your 5th house, what is the 5th house? Well, the 5th house is all about creativity and romance. A boost in creative expression, more direct communication in romantic relationships, more action also when it comes to creativity, fun, and dating. Mercury rules the 7th house of committed relationships and other people, and the 10th house of your career, your status, and your reputation. So with Mercury entering into the 5th house, there's a lot of I love, I enjoy, I take chances, I play, I create, I express. 2 months of this here, and it is going to be making trines to either your sun, moon, or your rising. I really love this for you guys. I think that it's about really getting in touch with the inner artist, the inner child, the inner creative. You'll have a retrograde here where you're going to have a partnership or some kind of friend or maybe even a sibling who's like, we should do more of this. This would be fun. This is a good idea. New hobbies can arrive. And it's also a shift in your frame of mind revolving around 5th house topics. So if you've been reluctant to date or to mix and mingle with other people, you might become more open to it. If you've been reluctant to starting your own job or to taking up a new hobby, most likely you'll do it. You may do this independently, Aries, or you may do this with another person. So you might start something and then get your partner kind of into it, and then you guys enjoy doing this thing. And Aries can be about fitness, it can be about health and wellness, but it can also be about something that's connected to like, sports. It can be gambling, it can be hobbies, it can be self-defense hobbies. So that's something that I see here. And what's kind of cool is that, you're going to have an eclipse here as well. So it can represent, a starting point where there can be a really significant new relationship coming into your life. As many of you guys know, Jupiter will go into Gemini later in the summer as well. So for those of you guys who are single, it's like getting out there, having fun and meeting people and being creative. Those of you guys who are partnered, it can be a time where relationships are taken to the next level and you're talking about serious commitments and possibly even like getting married or like having children. Especially having a Mercury retrograde here. So if you have kids, you're going to be spending more time with your kids the next 2 months. If you're thinking about having kids, you might be trying to have kids, or you might find out that you're pregnant, both through the retrograde, but also through the eclipse. And it can be a very exciting time where it's encouraging you to approach that with much more enthusiasm and being a little bit more optimistic. So let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. I get the 7 of Swords, okay? So, Mercury does represent this double-bodied energy. So there can be this sense of being like, can I trust this person? Can I trust this situation? Can I trust myself? Like, am I missing something? So sometimes this can deal with, letting something go, or dishonesty, or, feeling sneaky, or something that you can't really trust. But Aries is the self, okay? So there can be issues of working through issues of feeling confident in having the conversations about getting what you want. You can be going back and forth in a romantic situation, debating whether or not you want to be with them or somebody else, or if there's somebody else coming in, or if that's, really the person for you. But I think it's about learning to kind of get straight with yourself, because that's what Aries is about, and the 5th house is what you love. So the question is, are you deceiving yourself about these situations? Are you telling yourself, oh, I don't want that, when it's really what you want? Or I could never do that, or I'm not open to that, when in reality, it's just maybe something that you're afraid of, or you're not trusting that you could potentially have. Obviously, yeah, having a Mercury retrograde in your 5th house and an eclipse, it can bring some craziness with a, kind of loose relationship. So there can be changes with people that we're just starting to get to know. But I think really it's about trusting yourself. Committing to the idea that you can do something, and then it could be an adventure, and it can be the best thing that ever happened if you're willing to take that chance. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You will be seeing Mercury's ingress into the sign of Aries in your natal 4th house. As I've said to other cardinal signs, be mindful that this energy is quite impactful because it will be squaring your sign. And get familiar with your 4th house Capricorn, eclipses there, retrograde, all that stuff. It's all about what's going on with your home and your family. Now, Mercury, in your case, rules the 9th house of faraway places, law, legality, and education. And it also has connections to health and coworkers and your schedule. So it is possible that something is changing about your educational, like schedule. It is possible that something is changing about your office space. It is possible that something is changing about your belief system about home and family. There is some rearranging going on. There can also be some legal stuff going on or some estate stuff going on. That's possible as well. I, for one, will tell you that I would pay attention, because Mercury going into the 4th house is going to be things like conversations with home, with family, emails or letters from landlords. It can be a back and forth legal situation in regards to a family affair, giving you a heads up prior to the eclipses and the retrograde. The positive is that it can help you rearrange and like declutter and organize your space. So if you're moving, you can get rid of stuff. If you're, anticipating moving into your own place, it can help you, preemptively kind of take action and be more assertive with getting things in order before you move. But for the most part, yeah, this is going to be, a focus on family dynamics and assertive communication within the family. And if it's not with your family, it's with your roommates. And if it's not with your roommates, it's with your partner. You're having to be very cut and dry about what action you're taking in regards to your home. And a lot of this can be about reasserting yourself and your boundaries with home, family, relatives, or roommates. Now, Mercury being the ruler here, I would say, this is probably going to be about some changes to the systems of your home or who's taking care of family. If you have some family stuff going on, it can also be a time where you're having to kind of schedule travel or your work schedule around some kind of like significant, family shift. I've heard everything from people having to fly back home to take care of parents to people telling me that they just, found out that their landlord is selling the house. I've heard people who are telling me that they're finally separating from a partner and they're moving into their first own place. But defining what it means to be home is going to be a huge theme for you in the next month. And I think it's all about how you look at creating a space that's your own, right? When you can make the rules, you can design it the way that you want. You can decide if you want to stay up all night. You can decide where you want things to go. So there's this rethinking or reworking of having your own space. Let's take a look at what the cards say for you, Capricorn. I got the Page of Wands. I love this. I feel like you can be creative too. Like you can be creative with what your space looks like. Page of Wands is about adventure. It's about excitement, fresh ideas, cheerfulness, energetic, fearlessness, discovery of a young spirit, and limitless potential. Okay, so it's about taking action. This can also be about younger people. So Aries, Sagittarius, Leos can kind of pop in. There can be younger people in the family that are getting involved or helping you in some way. But I think that this is about approaching some of these shifts when it comes to home and family with a sense of adventure and being open-minded and willing to go in a new direction and be reminding yourself that it can actually be, quite exciting what you're embarking on. Good luck, Capricorn. We have Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's ingress into Aries in your natal 3rd house. So for you guys, this is a fun transit because Mercury loves being in the 3rd house. It has an association with Gemini, which is like a 3rd house energy. It will also be sextiling Aquarius and especially Pluto at the beginning of the transit. So it's very powerful for you. Aquarius, this is all about communication and learning. This is also about siblings and neighbors and gadgets and cars. I call this the junk drawer in astrology. It's a little bit of everything. Basically, fast-paced learning environment and an increase in communication, a can-do attitude, assertive communication, contracts, traveling, learning. Now, Mercury rules the 5th house of creativity, self-expression, and children. It also rules the 8th house of other people's money, resources, and transformation. So I see this as you being creative in trying to find ways to make more money or pay off debt or deal with expenses of children. I see this as a really strong period for writers, podcasters, people who are into publishing, education. If you're wanting to start a new website or a blog, this is a wonderful time to do it. You're going to have a lot of energy here, and it's going to be in harmony with your ascendant sun or moon in some capacity. So you can really tap into Pluto and say, okay, I'm getting really serious about change. I'm wanting to change my reputation. I've seen a lot of Aquarius risings who in recent years are like, I'm really serious about being a writer. I want to publish a novel. I want to sell a script. I want to become a teacher. I want to start training people, these kinds of things. And so this can be the beginning process of that. So, you know, I would use this period to really keep like either an audio recorder or a pen and pencil or a laptop nearby so you can jot down stuff, because you're going to be writing more often or communicating more often. I will remind you that inevitably there will be an eclipse and a retrograde here. So there can be some stuff coming up revolving around buying a vehicle, exchanging a lease, signing a lease to a new home or apartment, planning a move, signing contracts. And these things are going to get reworked out over this next month in April. So I would say this is not a time that you want to rush into any of these things. You want to use April to really work through it. I would recommend writing all of your ideas down and maybe using April as a time to go through it and reassess and determine, like, is it time to like start this new course or to move? Like, you know, I've got the list of all of the cars I'm interested in. Now I'm going to go and look at them. Don't rush into anything here. And really notice that communication and everything, like the pace is going to pick up very quickly. And I think it can be wonderful in finding new ways to express yourself, especially if you're looking to like, you know, make some extra money, or if you're wanting to negotiate terms on a financial matter. This can be a time for you to do that as well. The card that I get for you is the Seven of Cups, which in all honesty, I kind of had a feeling, because I can see all these planets in Pisces in your second house. So there's a lot of question marks about, what am I doing with my money? What do I have? You know, how much do I need of it? Where is it going? How do I spend it? And so it's very kind of like Seven of Cups energy. Which is choices, clouded judgment, too many options, illusions, opportunities, wishful thinking, searching for purpose, and indecision and disarray, right? And so when Mercury will go retrograde in your third house, you're going to feel like it's all getting rearranged. You know, you're going to feel like your brain's scrambled a little bit. So knowing that there are a lot of moving pieces, I would say try not to get overwhelmed with too many things. Like if you're trying to juggle too many things at one time, it can feel like you're going to have like a mental mind meltdown. Try to stay on task and have a plan at hand for what you're trying to execute or kind of check off your to-do list. And try not to have too many irons in the fire, because I think with the Seven of Cups, if we have too many things that we're writing or working on at one time, like nothing ever gets done. And Aries is about actually executing and like, you know, starting something. So rather than having too many projects all at once, try to scale back a little bit and get clear about, you know, what you're working on so you feel like you can actually complete a task. I should say Aries energy also, coming from an Aries moon, we're really great at starting things, right? Because we're really enthusiastic about starting stuff, but like we're not the best at finishing things. We're just not. So, you know, you get really excited about, oh, I have all these ideas, and then you like go to start it and then nothing gets finished. And so that is also the downside of Aries, is that it can burn out overly quickly, and it doesn't always finish stuff. So just some food for thought. Anyway, good luck, Aquarius. We've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You will be experiencing Mercury's ingress into your natal second house. All right, so for you, this is all like financial money stuff. This is all about values. Obviously, Mercury going into your second house is a focus on financial independence and your personal values. But Mercury deals with relationships and home, okay? So there's going to be this feeling like there's this back and forth matter that's going to be coming up in April about, do I stay in a relationship? Do I let them go? Do I hold on to them? Do I let them go? Do we continue to work together? Do I cut it off? How does that impact me financially? How do I become more financially independent? Like that's something you're going to be working through. And I don't know if it's in regards to a family member or a partner or a business relationship, but it should be something like that. The truth is that Mercury is the first planet to hit your second house. So you're going to start talking about what you need financially, what you're doing to bring in more money, what you have to offer other people. And it's in preparation for these other planets, which will then go through your second house, where you're really building on, I think, becoming more financially self-sufficient and figuring out how to make more or have healthier self-esteem or to develop some kind of skill or talent. I do feel like it's a time where you're going to be asking yourself if you value certain relationships still. And it's a time for building healthy self-esteem. Regardless of where you stand with a relationship or a friend or a family member relationship, it's like, okay, but I have to be building on my self-esteem. So incredibly important for the next couple of months. I would say this is a time also to start looking at your finances and how much money you're spending on things, or how much money your partner is spending on things, or how much money you physically, tangibly have, because the second house represents your wallet or your bank account. And you might be kind of looking at, well, do I need to be spending less? Do I need to be asking somebody to kind of contribute more? Is it time to raise my prices? Do I need to be kind of trying to reassess who I can be working with so I can bring in more in the long run? These are the things that you're going to be working with. And fortunately, unfortunately, so much of this is about you, right? What you have, what you need. You and Aries are the two signs that I'm giving you the complete okay to be more selfish. You guys are supposed to be more selfish right now. And it comes down to your bottom line. What you can afford, what you physically need. You got to be saying that. And it might be things that you need from other people. It's like, if you need me to work for you, I need a raise. Or, in order for us to work, I'm going to need you to be, kind of helping me build financially. That might be something that comes up a lot as well. And Mercury's connection to the fourth house is what you physically possess in your home, right? What you're spending on your mortgage, what you're spending on your rent, what you're having to buy for physical home things, the money you're trying to come up with if you're potentially trying to kind of move. Do you or do you not move in with a partner? These might be some of the things that you're kind of facing. And the ball's in your court because Saturn's in your sign. So it means that you get to be the one who decides and dictates and determines, not really so much other people. You'll see this more as we get into the eclipses later in the year. But really, relationships may come and go, especially when your standards are kind of rising and you're realizing that you need to have kind of better or healthier self-esteem and be aware of your worth. And you'll be less likely to kind of be persuaded to go back and forth in certain relationships. Oof, the card that I get is the Death card. Okay, so this is about endings and beginnings. I think this might be about the sextile of Pluto. Like right off the bat, when Mercury goes into Aries, that's going to sextile Pluto, and it's about coming to terms with the fact that some things are completing, some things need to come to an end. Pluto's not a bad card though, okay? It's really not. Maybe it's also connected to the eclipse that you're about to have in your 8th house at the end of March, where there's certain endings that are taking place in relationships to people, places, things. But the Death card is a symbolic death and rebirth. It can be about big changes, time to move on, transformations, transitions, endings, letting go, a release, or starting anew. So in that sense, it's good, but it's like, that's why I'm telling you, look out for yourself right now. Because if there's changes going on with relationships, you're like, I have to put my oxygen mask on first. Aries is about breathing after all. So it's like, I have to do what's best for me. Even if that means I need to make changes with my relationships or my home, so be it, right? But anticipating that that's coming and being brave and building on some of your strengths to bring in, more independence, I think is the key. So that's kind of like the Mercury and Aries, transit in a nutshell. I'm going to be doing some more discussions on this. I think I talk in my March monthly, right around the 18th is when Mercury comes into shadow. So as a reminder, do your Mercury retrograde stuff prior to that, and this is what I'm doing, I'm waiting until April's fireworks arrive because I know there's a retrograde and an eclipse. So I'd rather wait personally to see what happens around like the 8th through the 15th of April before I make any moves. But I know, what do you guys think? What are you guys doing? I am going to be working on a Mercury retrograde video that you guys will probably get in like the next week or two. So we can really look at Mercury's transit through Aries and really assess the conjunction to the North Node and Chiron. Still a little early for that. But this is probably what you need to kind of get you through the next week. So as always, thank you guys so much for listening to my videos, for liking, commenting, and subscribing. You guys rock. You're the reason why I'm still here working as a full-time content creator on YouTube. If you guys would like to book a personal reading with me or check out some of my astrology calendars or some of my products, go to the links below in my description at beyondtheveiltarot.com. There you can see my calendar, and make sure you sign up for my newsletter so you're alerted as to when I have new content coming out. I'm putting out sometime in March, I'm going to be doing some in-depth 12 rising sign videos for you guys to listen to that I'm going to have available for purchase. To really dive deep and help give you guys some words of wisdom, some things to meditate on, and how to prepare for these life-changing eclipses, especially the one at the beginning of April. So make sure you're subscribed for that. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and that this is a cool, calm, and collected week ahead. I'll catch you all back here next time on Tuesday. Until then, take care.